Greetings from midsummer in Perth, where the summer skies are cloudless and deep blue, where the warm sun makes the eucalypt trees even more fragrant, and where daily we anticipate the change of the winds that takes place almost every afternoon, and which is known locally as the Fremantle Doctor, bringing cooler temperatures in the afternoon and evening. My colleagues and I are back from a well-needed and much-enjoyed holiday break, and we're excited about working together with you to make 2019, our 6th year of full operations, our most successful yet. It's only the 3rd week of the year, but we have not been idle. Already, our distinguished fellow and director, Stephen Smith, and Hugo Seymour have participated in the annual Raisina Dialogue in Delhi, India, and in just 2 weeks, the Perth US Asia Center, for the 4th year in a row, will collaborate together with the United States Studies Center in hosting the annual Good Day USA Australia-US Indo-Pacific Dialogue. This year, for the first year, it will be in Washington, D.C. I, unfortunately, will be unable to attend as I will be in Singapore, but I'm delighted that we will be well represented by Stephen Smith and by our Director of Research, Jeffrey Wilson. Here, I would note that Jeffrey Wilson has joined us this year full-time as Director of Research, and as you've seen the wonderful pace of research output put out by him in previous years on a part-time basis, I think you can get a sense that this year will be even busier still. This is going to be a great year. We're going to have our normal frenetic pace of conferences and seminars and workshops, as well as publications. And on top of that, we will continue the large conferences that we did last year. In March, we will be hosting our 2nd Japan Indo-Pacific Conference. Towards the second half of the year, we will continue with our annual In the Zone Conference this year, which focuses on critical materials. And we hope to again work with the West Australian government to do the annual WA Indo-Pacific Defense Conference, as well as a WA ASEAN Dialogue. So again, we look forward to partnering with you. It promises to be a great year. Now, at the risk of prattling on, I'd like to take just a moment to talk about some larger trends in the world and in the region that are going to impact the work of the Perth US Asia Center and that we anticipate will impact you as well. And here I will confess that we are facing a tremendous deal of uncertainty, whether it is the US government shutdown as to how that will win and what the path forward is there, or Brexit, obviously, which this week hit another spectacular bump, or ongoing US-China trade relations, or a full range of issues, the Mueller investigation. I don't know that anybody knows the path forward on any of the above or how things will play out, but it promises to be a highly uncertain year. I thought it might be useful for me to share with you that, at least within the purview of the Perth US Asia Center, that I would outline those kind of 4 or 5 issues that I will be following very closely in 2019, at least looking at it from the prism of the early period of this year. First and foremost, obviously, the relationship between the United States and China. It is unclear as to how the trade disputes are going to be ended. There are some items of real concern as we start this year that weren't there even last year going forward. Just 2 days ago, there was an op-ed in the New York Times written by Derek Scissors and Abe Blumenthal, both China specialists at the American Enterprise Institute in Washington, D.C., a think tank which is seen as being closest to President Trump's thinking. And their focus is basically saying China is a dangerous rival and America should treat it as one. And they're calling for essentially decoupling, de-integrating the U.S. economy from the Chinese economy. It's worth looking at. It highlights the risks that are in that relationship, not just for Australia, but the region more broadly. The second thing I will continue to watch is trade. In 2018, I think one of the most underappreciated and underreported developments was the, I would say, miraculous resurrection of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Under the leadership of Japan and Australia, not only was the CPTPP resurrected and largely ratified, but it's really set a great precedence for 2019. Where that goes, whether it's expanded, whether new countries join, and likewise, whether we see progress on RCEP, the Regional Cooperative Economic Partnership, will be a very important trend to watch in 2019. Near and dear to my own heart, the third trend I'll be watching is North Korea. As I speak, it's understood that North Korean General Kim Myong-chul is in Washington, D.C., negotiating or discussing a possible second summit between President Trump in the United States and Kim Jong-un in North Korea. And there's a lot of uncertainties around that process, particularly as towards the end of the year, North Korea made it increasingly clear that they had no intention of abandoning their nuclear weapons or denuclearizing. And so we're in a really uncertain period where that relationship is fraught. There's potential for more summits, but the underlying dynamics seem to be moving in a very, very disturbing direction. And if you overlay that with U.S. domestic politics, it becomes even more concerning still. My primary concern is that other than President Trump himself and the Secretary of State, Secretary Pompeo, who are committed to delivering these summits because that's what Trump wants, I don't see within anyone else in the U.S. government any sense of delusion about North Korean denuclearization or support for the summit process. And so the concern I have is what happens if there is a change in leadership in the United States. How does that impact not only the process, but more importantly, how does that impact U.S. alliance relationships with South Korea? And as an aside here, probably the most concerning development over the last 3 months for me has been the sharp deterioration in relationships between South Korea and Japan. Two allied countries that are allied with the United States, but not with each other, but by all intents and purposes should be working together to deal with an uncertain era, and instead are working very much at cross purposes. Two final points that I'll make, and then I'll wrap up here. Indonesia. For the last several years here, Indonesia has been a priority for the Perth U.S. Asia Center. We have used as a mantra the several years old now estimates by PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, that saw that by 2050, Indonesia would be the fourth largest economy in the world. Over the break, Standard & Chartered, another Western bank, came out with their own estimate that based on purchasing power of parity, that Indonesia would reach that status by 2030. The important thing is, whether it's 2030 or 2040 or 2050, Indonesia is a growing economic power. And even before it reaches the fourth largest economy in the world status, it will be fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth and ninth and 10th. And at each stage along the way will warrant some real serious attention, not only by Australia, but other countries in the region. And in that regard, the fact that Indonesia is holding its presidential elections in April of this year, 2019, make 2019 a very important year. Everything I've said about Indonesia could also be applied for India in terms of its anticipated growth and role in the region. And that really leads into my fifth and final point, and that is whither the Indo-Pacific. 2018 was a banner year for the construct of the Indo-Pacific, and you will have noticed that we here at the Perth U.S. Asia Center brand almost everything we do as Indo-Pacific. The fact that the U.S. Pacific Command last year changed its name formally to the Indo-Pacific Command, the fact that Prime Minister Modi used the term Indo-Pacific some 13 times in his speech at the Shangri-La Dialogue in June, really marked a coming of age for the term. So where that goes in 2019, whether it's built upon or whether it sees some retreat in the face of some real uncertainties elsewhere in the region, is going to be a very important development again for us and hopefully for you as well. I could go on. I would note that it's only the week 3 of 2019, and I anticipate there will be new issues that pop up that I don't yet foresee, but these are issues that I will be monitoring, that I'm concerned about, and I hope that you will follow the Perth U.S. Asia Center closely. Our web presence, our social media presence, and our programs, as we hope to be of service to you in understanding a uncertain world in 2019 and beyond. Thank you.